Who are the top riders to win the 2024 Tour de France? Starts June 29th in Florence, Italy, runs for 3 weeks, up in the high mountains. Well, we're going to take a look at the 4 riders you need to keep your eyes on, their strengths and their weaknesses. So when the GC battle really gets going, you know who will be your pick for the GC battle. Number 1 on the list, and probably number 1 on everyone's list, is Jonas Vingegaard. Of course, the Danish rider of Team Visma-Leasebike has won the last 2 editions, 2022 and 2023, and finished second overall in 2021. He started off a season with a bang. We saw him in Spain winning O Gran Camino, Treno Adriatico winning the overall, the blue leader's jersey, and that cool trophy. Dominant, dominant, dominant. He's been likened to this current generation's Chris Froome. Thin, mountain goat, also has a lethal time trial, but it's a lot to be asked for Jonas Vingegaard to get back into shape, because you remember he had that nasty crash in the Tour of the Basque Country at the beginning of April, and out of the riders, the top GC riders that crashed that day, he came off the worst. Punctured lung, fractured ribs, collarbone, sternum, you name it, he had it. He's fighting back to be his best. Team Visma-Leasebike need to watch his numbers, see how he's going, and to see if he'll develop in the first week or second week and be ready for the third week showdown. If not, who is their B plan? Who's the B option? Well, there are 2, and they're both Americans, Sepp Kuss and Matteo Jorgensen. Number 2 on my list of 4, Tadej Pogacar, Team UAE Emirates, a Slovenian superstar. You'll know him well because he just dominated in the Giro d'Italia, winning the pink jersey on day 2, holding it for the entire 3 weeks basically, except for stage 1, 6 stage wins, and nearly a 10-minute lead over his nearest rival when it was all said and done in Rome. Yeah, he's also an overall winner, past winner in the Tour de France. If you're looking back to 2020, when he just beat out Primož Roglič, another Slovenian, there in that final mountain time trial. He won again in 2021 when Jonas Vingegaard was second. The last 2 editions, he's been runner-up. This year, he's come out of the gates with the bang. You could tell he's got his mojo back, and he wants to win the Tour de France and wants to also do the double, being the first rider to do the double, if he pulls it off, since 1998. He's had a heck of a season, hard out of the gates, 80-kilometer solo escape in Strade Bianche, tearing apart the field for a second victory in Liège-Bastogne-Liège, Vuelta Catalunya doing the same. Well, we're going to have to see how he gets into the Tour de France, because it's a lot to ask to win the Giro d'Italia, 3 weeks of racing, and then show up again in the Tour de France. Will his strength last for the 3 weeks, or will he crumble? Number 3, Remco Evenepoel, who makes his debut in the 2024 Tour de France when it rolls out of Florence on June 29th. Yeah, it's his debut. There was some speculation last year that after he dropped out of the Giro d'Italia with COVID, that maybe he would take on the Tour de France for the first time, but the team didn't want to rush it. They had this project 2024 in mind. Instead, he went to the Vuelta a España, and we all know how that went. Instead, Remco Evenepoel focused on the Tour de France and getting all the pieces in place to be ready, and that included signing a mountain helper, Mikel Landa, the Spaniard, to have support in the high mountains. Also, he has riders like Ilan van Wilder. Those riders will support him in his aim to be the next Belgian superstar. There's a lot of hype around Remco, and he's already shown that he can live up to it. World champion in the time trial, in the road race, current Belgian road race champion, and he's going into the Tour de France, and he's going at it, approaching it in the best way possible. And that's taking it slow and steady to get to this day, because in his past Palmars, he has the Vuelta a España 2022 overall. He looked good in the Giro d'Italia last year before dropping out of the Giro d'Italia due to COVID. He's a phenomenal talent, but he needs to prove his consistency in 3 weeks. Because as I talked about before, in the Vuelta a España last year, there's been problems. There at the Vuelta a España last year, he fell apart, especially on that Tourmalet stage. But before that, the team fell apart by letting Sepp Kuss, not being able to pull back Sepp Kuss, who went away in the escape that eventually helped Sepp Kuss pull off the overall victory. And then, of course, there's some problems along the way, like we saw earlier this year in Paris-Nice. We're going to learn a lot from the earlier races in the season, and that includes the Criterium du Dauphiné, which leads in to the Tour de France. But definitely, Remco Evenepoel is going to have a lot of weight on his shoulders with the Belgian press, and the team doesn't have a B plan if Remco Evenepoel can't pull it off. but he's going to be out to prove those naysayers wrong. He won the Volta a España in 2022. They said that, well, the competition wasn't that high there. Roglic had eventually left the race after crashing, and so he had an easy ride. Well, there's no easy ride in Grand Tours, but he wants to prove everyone wrong. So at the Tour de France, watch out for him. Now that brings us on to Primoz Roglic, who this year switched teams. He switched teams from Jumbo-Visma to Bora-Hansgrohe because he wanted a shot to go back to the Tour de France as race leader. He's in the team Bora-Hansgrohe, which is going to be rebranded Red Bull when the Tour de France starts. Of course, we all know he barely just missed out on Tour de France victory in 2020, and that really still stings. That year, he fell apart in that final mountain TT, and he fell apart to Tadej Pogacar, and he's still fighting to get back to that position to try to win the Tour de France. Along the way, he's won almost every 1 week stage race there is, and he's a killer in those final meters, always able to pick up bonus seconds. Now, I should mention him and Remco, they were also involved in the crash in the Tour of the Basque Country along with Jonas Vingegaard. Remco Evenepoel had the broken collarbone. Primoz Roglic came away with just scrapes, but took time away before he reappeared in the Criterium du Dauphiné. We're all going to be keeping our eyes out on Team Bora-Hansgrohe and how the team gels around their new star rider. He has supporting riders like Alexander Vlasov and Jai Hindley. Jai Hindley could be the leader, the B plan, if Primoz Roglic can't pull it off. But we're going to have a heck of a four-way battle between him, Remco Evenepoel, Tadej Pogacar, and Jonas Vingegaard. I would say the strength of Primoz Roglic, well, it's as I mentioned, that kick in the final meters to pick up bonus seconds. The weakness, he's the older of the four, and he'll have his last chance in 2024, possibly his last chance to try to pull it off. So we'll have to see. Also, the weakness could potentially be his new team. Regardless, brace yourself for a true GC battle. All four of these big stars on the start line going head to head in the 2024 Tour de France. Who's your pick for the GC overall? Now knowing their strengths and weaknesses, we have a clearer idea of who are the favorites for this year's Tour de France.